All right, everybody, welcome back to the Groundbreaking Leadership Podcast. I'm excited today because I have Jacob Mann with us today. We met years back and we stayed in contact. So welcome to the show, Jacob.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. I appreciate you having me on today.
No problem. And it's been a while because I know when I met you, we met. You do a Herbalife shake place, and you had one in
Mhm.
Lillington. Is that what you even call it, the Herbalife shake place? I know that's probably not the right name.
We call them shake bars.
Shake bars. So
Yep.
this is where I met Jake at, and we kind of connected. And I was trying to think back how we got connected, and I think it was over a book.
Yep. You're still in my phone as Jeremy Stevens Book Club because we
Yeah.
talked about getting a little book club together for personal development books. Because I was talking about certain authors and people we listen to, kind of like John Maxwell.
Yeah.
And it's very rare that you get in conversations like that with people these days. So I was excited to conversate with you.
Yeah. So we kind of connected right away, and we were tossing back and forth books. You had some books for me, and it went on like that. So we connected right out the gate. And I love talking to people about personal growth because it inspires me, because I love it when you're going in a certain direction and then something in your life happens, and you get to go a choice. Either you stay huddled in a corner, or you get up and make things happen. And I always love asking people this question because I just like hearing people's story. And I know you're big in self-development. And so when you started your journey, was it out of inspiration or desperation?
You know, what's fascinating, I don't even know if you know some of my story, so it'll be good to talk to you about it. But I would say the start of my story was absolutely desperation, right? Do you want me to go into it a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, love to hear it.
All right, let's do it. So the reason why I said it started off with desperation, and then nowadays I'd say it's more inspiration. Of course, it keeps me growing and keeps me wanting to get to the next level, spiritually, professionally, emotionally. But my desperation comes from a long history of drug addiction. Actually, were you aware of that part of my
I
story?
knew a little bit, but not the whole story.
All right, so started very early on. Since I was a kid, I always struggled with emotional problems, anger management issues, um, to the point when I was 10 years old, they had to put me in Holly Hill, which is a mental place there in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I spent a couple weeks there. I was diagnosed with bipolar and a few other things that I can't even remember. They put me on a load of medicine for it. And through that, um, I don't know, just the behavioral issues and maybe a little bit of genetics, a lot of bad choices led to coping with life through drugs and alcohol, right? And what I've really narrowed it down to is I remember when it really became an addiction, and I made a connection between having drugs and having alcohol and winning friends, right? Earning relationships through substances. And the reason why that hit so hard for me was because I moved around a lot, whether I was getting kicked from one place to the next, or my father, he got promoted a lot in his line of work. So we'd move to a new region. And yeah, so I found out if I had drugs and I had alcohol, I had friends no matter where I was at. And I got to recreate myself everywhere I went. And it was just that much easier to do with those substances. So it started out as an emotional thing and grew into a physical thing pretty quickly. Long story short, ended up being an IV heroin user for a number of years. Ended me up in prison at 126 pounds, skin and bones. Did 11 months in prison, and I got out just to hit everything on repeat again. And at that point in time, I was dating a lady that had a young daughter. We were both in active addiction. And I remember like it was yesterday, I looked in the rear view mirror I was it was morning time and I was already drunk and high, and I was driving a car with a 6 month old baby in it, and it just hit me. I'm like, what am I doing? Right? There's a baby in my back seat who's got not a hope in the world if our lives proceed to go down this path, right? Um, so that was when I became desperate for a change. I was broke down. It seemed like every little thing in my life was breaking and going wrong. And I went to my parole officer at the time and let him know what was going on. And it was such a spur of the moment thing. I didn't get rid of any paraphernalia or anything that was in my car. Just went in, told on myself. He came out, asked me where stuff was, pointed it out. And thank God for that probation officer, because he had enough faith in me to not just throw me right back in prison, because I would have had to go back for another 9 months. And knowing that I was going to be a very big influence in that child's life, and I had been through some things as a kid, and I knew that emotional pain that a child would go through with struggling people in their lives. It had me to start my journey, and my journey started in a 12-step program. Um, and I found out that yes, I have the disease of addiction, right? Um, the disease isn't necessarily my fault or wasn't my responsibility, but my recovery is, and what I do once I recognize that is my responsibility. And ever since then, it's like I have the blessing. I'm still in 12-step program to this day. Attend 3 meetings a week is what I like to do. Sponsor other men, um, and it's something I'll give back to till the day I die, because 100% it helped me to recognize the patterns in my life that just overplayed and over and over and over again, and ended me up in the same positions: jails, institutions, trouble, broken relationships, destroyed relationships with my parents, and that the different traumatic things that happen through active addiction. um I was so beat down, man. And a person can do two things at that point: surrender to the problem and just decide to live that life till they die, or surrender to a solution, right?
Yeah.
So I made the decision to surrender to a solution, and that's where that desperation comes from. And do you want me to get into a little bit about leading into business?
Yeah, definitely. So let's just recap on that part,
Okay.
because I knew part of your story, but I didn't know that much in detail. And just that defining moment that you have, with the little, it was a little girl right in the back
Hmm.
seat, and your condition, and you had that wake up call right there where enough's enough. And
Hmm.
it just reminds me of some of the Jim Rohn speech where enough's enough. Either I stay like this or I do something about it. And it's amazing once you get to that mindset where enough's enough. I believe that God puts people in your life, and it seems like that parole officer was that guy that, you had enough's enough. And then that parole officer really helped you redirect it into a better place. But it's just that first step, the first step's always the hardest. And I love that how, once you knew that, it kind of realigned your path basically.
Yes, 100%.
Well, yeah. So let's jump into the business side.
Okay. Oh, so with business, I've always, you either meet people who make a decision and train to become an entrepreneur, or you have other people who seem to be just born with that bone in their body where they just have to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I believe that I've always had that in me. I believe I was born with just a passion for business and a passion for things that I can build and develop when I'm not limited, right?
Yeah.
A lot of positions we can get ourselves in are great for growth, and I'm not saying there's not a place for those, because I've helped people for free in their businesses just for experience. No money. I just want to learn, right?
Yeah.
But it's very important to me, and always has been, to not be limited, by any position or cap myself off, and sometimes to my detriment, because just as probably 100 times more than I've succeeded, I've failed, to be 100% transparent. But it takes that to learn. And whenever I was 14, I remember probably one of my earlier entrepreneur ventures was I'd buy tongue rings off of eBay with my dad's help. I'd get 20 or 100 of them for $20, and then I'd sell them for $3 a piece at school to people who didn't even have a tongue piercing. So that's one thing I always recall. And
Selling a
grew up,
vision.
yeah, right. Yeah, selling a vision. Yeah, they were cool. So people purchased them, and it was, a few dollars their lunch money. I didn't care. And that kind of just opened my eyes to, supply and demand, and just the beauty of being able to create my own income. And of course, with my history, it led into some interesting things. But to stay on topic, I grew up with my dad. He always had side hustles going on. Back when eBay just first happened, I remember getting paid a penny per listing and helping him put all these eBay listings together on his account for drop shipping. And just little experiences like that led to me really wanting to be in business for myself. But during active addiction, that's not very much a possibility, at least not responsibly. So I was blessed enough. My family had a business there in Anger, Passport Door Systems, and I had some extremely important people as mentors there. My uncle Jeff Hickman, man, he stuck with me every step of the way, even when I was just taking advantage of him left and right, and not being a very good family member. We'll just leave it at that. And he taught me so much in metal fabrication. My grandfather let me work service calls and installation for rolling steel doors and dock levelers, and that experience was incredible. But it did show me that that's just not what I'm built for, right? I love that industry, and I think that it's done wonders for my family. It just wasn't what I personally was built for. And, honestly, that's one of my main things that I look back on, and it makes me sad because I know my uncle, he put a lot into me, man. And I've apologized to him several times because I went into a different direction. But honestly, if I wouldn't have, I don't know if I'd still be alive, because it took a big change for me to get away from the drugs, right?
Yeah.
But so after active addiction, I got out of prison, and of course, I told you I relapsed for a little while. But after I got straightened out with my parole officer, my father and I bought storage lockers together. He would sell the large items like furniture, different things like that. I was putting myself through school at Carteret in Carteret County there at the beach. I was actually going to go to school for, I was going to school for mechanical engineering, and I was going to have a minor in boat building because I was at the beach. And hey, if mechanical engineering doesn't work out, then I'll just build boats and live on the dock. Right. But, life happens. My father was actually killed in a gunshot accident that was named by the coroners to be suicide. Not going to go too deep into that situation. Don't agree with everything, but definitely my father and I were best friends, man. And that situation happened the day before Father's Day, or actually, it might have been on Father's Day. It was June 16th. And I found out on my mom's birthday, and everything changed. Of course, I didn't go back to school. That was my decision. I moved back to Harnett County to help settle the estate, figure out what to do with his business. And it was too painful to carry on with at that point. So what I ended up doing is opened up a vapor store there in Dunn, North Carolina. And I'm not going to spend too much time going through every little detail, but I learned the very hard way. I call this my business school, my master's in business. State of North Carolina, that story wound up, it was almost 2 years in business, very profitable business. I made a lot of bad decisions. Um, didn't trust the right people with my taxes. I didn't make good decisions with my money, and sales tax didn't get paid correctly. So state of North Carolina gave me 10 days to pay 30 something $1,000, or they were coming in and shut me down, right? Paid an attorney, tried to get it stopped. 10 days later, locksmith, sheriff's department escorted me out, auctioned off everything I owned. And that it was like, it was so fascinating because I mean, I'm in recovery, I'm clean, and I'm losing all this stuff, man. It was like I lost my dad, I lose my business, um, all these different things. And what had happened is I let my business and my ego become my identity, right? My ego became my identity. And when that happens, I'm not teachable. I'm not teachable. I'm not concerned about personal growth or professional growth. I'm just the man because I created this business that's making X amount of money per day, and nobody can tell me nothing because, you know, that's just where my ego was at, right? And little did I know that was the best thing that ever happened to me, to be honest. And that little girl that I speak of, I'm still raising her at that point. Today I just tell people it was a foster situation because it's very detailed to get into. But her mother struggled a lot with drugs, ended up getting in some trouble, and I was able to continue to raise that little girl for a couple years after that. And I was taking her to Holly Springs, to Sharon Harris Lake, to go fishing, right? First thing in the morning, we go to an NA meeting in Raleigh, and then we'd go to Holly Springs to go fishing before I went to another NA meeting. And I did not mean to blow anonymity. I'm not supposed to say those two letters, but yeah, a 12-step meeting. And it's all I knew how to do, man. When my life falls to pieces, I know where the solution is. So major point to take away from that is I started worrying about my personal growth again, right? I started relying back on God instead of myself, and just trusted in him to lead me in the right direction. I was so lost, back in desperation. Didn't know what I was going to do to raise this little girl. I didn't know what I was going to do to fend for myself, to be completely honest. And I walked into a, as you call it, Herbalife shake bar, or a Herbalife shake bar in Holly Springs called Healthy But Good. And that was the first shake bar in our organization there in North Carolina to open up. My wife now, who is somebody I didn't know then, of course, moved from Montana to there. And then one of our mentors, Helen Bloom, moved from California to there, along with another one of our mentors, Kathy. And they all converged right there in Holly Springs to pop up one of these businesses. And I absolutely fell in love with the concept as soon as I walked in the door. But to be honest, when I heard the word Herbalife, I was thrown off because I'd seen a lot of shops that were not attractive, painted green, and open and close pretty quickly. So when I first heard that, I almost walked back out. However, the community, the energy in the place was just different, and that's what attracted me. So that started what I'm doing today, and that's when my desperation led to another spike in my personal growth that allowed me to be open to the opportunities around me. Because when my ego's in charge, I'm not looking for opportunities. I'm looking for excuses, right?
Yeah.
Did you want to cover anything on that?
Yeah, definitely. Because it's like, I was just trying to take down some notes, and it seems like every time you stood back up, you got smacked back down.
Yeah.
But it's also, using as a teachable moment, when you lost your vape shop, you admit that your head's too big, and I wasn't teachable from that point, but then it almost seemed like it got you into a humble state, redirected you once again. And then you just found yourself in a shake shop and surrounded by I would say, because I know the vibe is that positive energy that our world lacks. We don't have it everywhere. It seems like there's more negativity. So when you surround yourself with great people, it's almost naturally that you're going to be inspired. So
Yes.
that's I'm sitting here, I feel so bad because I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you had to experience so many, not really setbacks, but just so many major points in your life where, it seemed like it was an abrupt end. And then, you're having to pick yourself back up again. It's almost like you're the most relentless guy I've talked to in a long time.
Well, I appreciate that.
So
Thank you.
this is where you met your wife though, at the shake shop. I didn't know that. Y'all were
Yes.
a Herbalife couple.
Yep. We call it Herbal Love.
Herbal love.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
awesome. So
Man, I'm telling you.
so 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 of course y'all I can, I know y'all got married, and where are you at with your family now?
Oh man, we've got two wonderful boys. One of them's 4.5 months. The other one will be three September 29th. Elijah and JJ. And
Elijah and JJ.
yeah, we moved across the country, of course, to Washington State to expand our business out here.
That's awesome. And that's just a major obstacle in itself. It's not that you just move like one state over. I mean, you
Hmm.
you move to the other side.
Yes. Yep.
Packed up your family and just started. Because did you know anybody in this state, or how did you choose Washington?
So the neat thing about our choice was we were going to expand to Tennessee, one state over. That's where I was born. A lot of opportunity there. It's not a cold market. There are Herbalife places there. But to be transparent, like for the first few years of our business, it was rough, man. You're talking about, I had already lost a business. Samantha was very young. I mean, I believe, don't, she'll probably kill me when she hears this, but I think she was 21 or 22. Moved across the country with a book bag and a bicycle. She bought a bike when she got there. So when we opened that first business in Lillington, it's not where it is now. It was about a tenth of a mile up the road in an itty bitty shopping strip. And we had the deposit to our names, and that was it. We put down the deposit and we just made it happen. Right.
Yeah.
And thank God we started like that, because or let's get back to the point. Her parents and her family thought we were absolutely crazy. Right.
Yeah.
They're like, I just pray that when you guys wake up before it's too late and get a real job. I remember that conversation as clear as day. It was right there at our little shop. And Samantha just poured her heart out, because like we knew that they were concerned and they were talking about us and stuff. And we just had to have a conversation about it, face what was going on. And when we were talking about moving and expanding, they said the words, "We really think you guys would do great out here. I think you should come check it out." And that belief in my wife and seeing what that did for her was all I needed to hear. I'm like, I'll go out, I'll look at locations. And on that very first trip, by the time I was on the way home, we were in negotiations to move out here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because and I know somebody's here going to listen to this story, in the same similar, spot that you were in, drugs, alcohol. I lost my dad, so I know how that, not in the same way, but just that
Mhm.
loss is very tough. Um, if you were going to talk to someone today to help inspire them, what's one thing, what would be your encouraging word for them?
I would tell them, if I could talk to myself when I was in that situation, and I talked to many men like that, being in a 12-step program. It's like the pain and that feeling of just being beat down and hopelessness, it doesn't last forever, right? And nothing happens overnight either. But you would be absolutely amazed what your life could be like 12 months from today if you simply just concentrated on doing the next right thing and stopped making excuses. Take full responsibility, 100% responsibility for everything in your life. I don't care if you're in a situation where you truly are a victim, we can take 100% responsibility on our part, right? What's my part?
Yeah,
What can I do to change it? And focus on that. And 12 months from that day, it's amazing what life can be like.
that is. And I love that, take that step,
Hmm.
because sitting down on a log, in a kind of a pity party is not going to help anything. It's always that first step.
Hmm.
And no matter what story I hear, it's always after that first and second step is where something happens. Whether
Yes.
somebody comes in your lap, your path may change a little bit. You may see something from a different angle because you're starting to move in that direction. And that's awesome. So take the step. I love that. So so Jake, I appreciate you're spending some time with me. How, somebody needs to connect to you. How could they connect with you?
So of course, today's day and age, social media is an easy way on Instagram. Jake from Shake Farm,
I like that.
Shake. Yeah. People always say, "Oh, Jake from Shake or State Farm." So I just owned it, tweaked it a little bit, and
Oh,
that's me, right? So you can get in touch with me on there. I'm not too active posting at the moment. My wife is much more active. Or coaches Jake and Sam on Facebook. We have a business page on there, trying to be a little bit more active on that. Or, of course, walk into any shake bar, especially right there around the Lillington area or Wake, Harnett County. Our team is spread out all over there, and you can get a little bit of that positivity that drew me in.
that's awesome. Well, I sure do appreciate it. And thank you for being on our show.
Absolutely. Thank you.